Good morning. Nehemiah 13. We come to the final chapter of a remarkable story where the walls are built, the people are gathered, and the city has been restored. But Nehemiah is having to return to Persia for the time, come back to find the people strayed from the promises. Though Jerusalem has been physically rebuilt, spiritually, the people once again became lax in their commitment to God's ways. When Nehemiah returned, he found the city not as he left it. The temple, which had been dedicated to the Lord, had been fallen in disrepair. The priests were no longer honoring the Sabbath as they promised. The people began to intermarry with foreign nations, turning their hearts away from God's commitment. Perhaps the most striking moment in this chapter is Nehemiah's reaction when he enters the temple. Elisheba, the high priest, was allowed the enemy, Tobiah, and the Alamite leader to take residence in the room in the temple meant for offering. Nehemiah's righteous anger burned at a defile of the sacred place. With boldness, Nehemiah ordered all the Tobiah possessions to be thrown out of the temple. This was not just an ordinary act of cleaning, it was a declaration of God's holiness that could not be compromised. The people had promised to keep the temple pure, but now it was time to restore and sanctify the place where God's presence dwelt. Nehemiah's action didn't stop at the temple. He called the people to account, reminding them of the covenant that they had made with God. He rebuked the leaders for allowing the Sabbath to be profane and letting the merchants exploit the city. He reminded them the importance of the obedience of God's law, not as a burden but as a blessing. Nehemiah didn't just point out the failures of the people, he also led them to repentance. He prayed for God's mercies and restoration. Nehemiah knew that the restoration of the city wasn't just about physical work, it was about the heart of the people being restored to God. And the people returned to their commitment. They made new vows to follow God's law, honor the Sabbath, and protect the holiness of the temple. Nehemiah's reforms had brought the people back to the heart of the covenant with God. Nehemiah teaches us the powerful lesson. Even after a great work of restoration, the heart of the people still matters. It is easy to focus on the external of building, accomplishment, and success, but God desires our hearts to be fully aligned with Him. Our commitment with Him isn't just a season, it is for a lifetime. What areas in your life have you allowed to slip away from God's standards? Maybe through your promises, you promised God something, or only to find distractions that led you away. Like Nehemiah, we must hold on to returning to God's way, even when it's difficult, even when it requires sacrifice. Take the time today to reflect on God's promises that you have made to God, and where areas in your life need to be restored. Ask God to help you return to Him fully, and to trust in His mercy and grace. You have a blessed, wonderful day. One day at a time, we'll get the entire book of the Bible. This is another book that we finished.